Mitchell hates these rifles. This is what a New York State featureless compliant rifle looks like in the state of New York. This video we're going to talk about this rifle. How do you legally purchase an AR-15 in New York? And I know I've made previous videos on this, but we're going to go into detail about how do you get an AR-15 in New York legally? What are different methods? What are the different types of ARs you can get? Do you need a permit to buy one? All those topics we're going to get into video. Let's go. So there's 3 different ways you can have a New York State legal, or actually 4 different ways you can have a New York State legal AR-15, because sure as you know, with New York being infamous with California, there being a so-called assault weapons ban, they banned features on guns that are semi-automatic. So to be able to have those weapons, there's a few different ways that you can have a compliant New York State AR-15. So with that, this is called featureless. This is one of the ways that you can have a New York State legal AR. And there's gonna be the good, the bad, and the ugly, and some of these things might surprise you. Let's talk about it. So New York State bans semi-automatic rifles that have a detachable magazine, that have bad features, assault weapon features. Those features include a pistol grip. So what this storage in stock does is it removes the pistol grip and makes it like a hunting rifle. You cannot have a foregrip, so any type of like broom handle grip. Hand stops are a gray area, especially if they're small and can't be reasoned in court to be able to grab onto it with a non-shooting hand. So you can't have a foregrip. You can't have any threads, so you can't even have threads on the end of the barrel to be able to accept a muzzle device. And you cannot have a telescoping stock. So what the storage and grip does is it gets rid of the pistol grip, and it also removes the telescoping stock. So you have to have a fixed stock, no grip, no foregrip, and no threads. And all of a sudden this gun is not an assault weapon, even though it shoots the same caliber and shoots just as fast. New York logic. It doesn't turn the bullets into Nerf bullets. This is not as scary. But we all know Hochul hates it, because if it was up to her, she'd probably ban them by name, making it completely impossible to own a semi-automatic rifle, because they don't want you to have those either. They don't want you to have those either, because you get good with it, you can shoot them pretty quick. So that rifle is featureless because it has no features. So if you want to retain the detachable magazine portion, and the ability to be semi-automatic means you can shoot every time with the trigger pull, you don't have to cock it back every time. The 2 sections of the ban says if it's semi-automatic and has the ability to take a detachable magazine, can't have the features. So this is one way you can have a New York State legal AR-15. But if you want to have those scary features, like you want to have the pistol grip, you want to have the collapsing stock, you want to have all those things, the second way, which I don't have a rifle on me to showcase it, but the second way is to have a fixed magazine. What that means is, with the assault weapons ban like we just talked about, it says semi-automatic with the ability to take a detachable magazine. So if you remove one of those 2 initial qualifiers, you can have the bad features. But if you want to retain detachable magazine and semi-automatic, you have to get rid of these features. But if you want to keep those features, you have to either remove the ability to be semi-automatic or to be able to take a detachable magazine. So if you have a fixed magazine setup, then you can have the pistol grip and all of the bad features. The thing with fixed magazine is it's more of a gray area, because New York State doesn't define what actually qualifies as fixed magazine. But I've never seen actually a court case involving it go to court, because to my knowledge and what I've talked to the Safe Act hotline, the state troopers over there, is there would have to be case law made for it to be more in detail, like California. Like California goes into detail saying that if you break the action of the firearm, then the magazine is able to come out. New York State doesn't define any of that, so all of that's a gray area. There's people that epoxy them, people that use AR maglock. All of the fixed magazine setups are a gray area, because New York State does not define what level of gunsmithing is required. All the law says is ability to take a detachable magazine. So are they going to go as far as to say that an epoxied fixed magazine system, that if somebody took a drill to it in 20-30 minutes and took it out, are they going to say, oh, it's not fixed magazine because a gunsmith is able to remove it? We don't know, because someone hasn't been brought to court over it yet. And I don't think they want to do that, because from the sounds of it is, and I've talked to other people, retired law enforcement, and his opinion on it was they like the laws to be vague, because then they can have selective enforcement. Because when everything is gray like that, they can decide. When there's things set in stone, it limits the state's ability to do things. But if it's all vague and they can just pick and choose, they can just come up with whatever they want, it's probably better for them, not for us. So let's just hope that in the future, New York actually goes into detail about what's allowed and what's not allowed, because it's kind of like ancient Rome, right? Like, how are you supposed to follow the laws if you don't actually know what they are? But they just don't want you to have any of these things, that's the thing. So the third way you can have a AR-15 in New York State is getting rid of the other qualifiers. So you have semi-auto, you have the detachable magazine, Then you have the military characteristics. So we went over the featureless one where you remove the bottom military characteristics, then you can have the semi-auto and detachable magazine. If you want to have the military characteristics, the other one was getting rid of the ability to remove the detachable magazine. So you get rid of the ability to take a detachable magazine, then you can have the features, and then you can have the semi-auto. If you want to be able to have all the bad features and take the detachable magazine, you have to remove the semi-automatic edition. So it is not semi-automatic, it can't be considered an assault weapon. So then you can have a detachable magazine and the military characteristics. So you could have the flashlight or pistol grip telescoping stock. So that would be like a bolt action AR upper, pump action AR upper, something that is truly manually operated. Do you need any permit? What type of permits do you need? To have a semi-automatic firearm, to acquire it after the Buffalo shooting, after they passed a new law, you do need a semi-automatic endorsement, which is the same thing as getting your pistol permit. So there's no sense in getting a semi-automatic endorsement without your pistol permit, because it is the same requirements for references, getting interviewed by a sheriff or a judge, fingerprints, 4 character references, waiting months and months and months, taking an 8-10 hour course, 2 hours of live fire, 16 hours of classroom, putting a deposit on a handgun, you having to go through all of this on your dollar to exercise your Second Amendment rights. That is to acquire a semi-automatic after the Buffalo shooting. Any ones you've had before that are grandfathered in. So the people that are 18, turning 18, able to own firearms now, are not able to get them because they weren't old enough to be able to acquire firearms before the Buffalo shooting. So what are your options? Because you're not gonna be able to go fixed magazine semi-auto, you're not gonna be able to go featureless. The only option you have to own an AR-15 if you're under 21 and don't have a pistol permit and didn't have one before the ban, your only option is going bolt action AR-15. You have to go with a non-semi-automatic AR-15. So you either need to go Cali key, pump action, bolt action, okay? They sell plenty of bolt action uppers online, and then obviously once you get your permit, you can convert it into be a semi-automatic with the 2 ways, either fixed magazine or featureless. What was the 4th way? I know we talked about, you're probably like, you said 4, you only went over 3. Well, the 4th way is if you go back onto my channel, check out the how is this 50-year-old antique assault weapon legal in the state of New York, where there's an actual clause in the New York State Penal Code 265 and Penal Code 400 that any firearm that is over 50 years old that classifies as an assault weapon is able to be registered through the New York State Police. So after the SAFE Act, all assault weapons had to be registered in that time period. But there was a cutout for collectors that even after they closed the registration period, any firearm over 50 years old that classifies as an assault weapon may be registered and possessed. So obviously you would have to have a permit, because for it to be an assault weapon, it has to be semi-automatic. So you have to have a permit to be able to purchase one. If your FFL knows about this, because you see my video, I went through it, because obviously if you know about AR-15s, the earliest ones came out over 50 years ago. So if you want to spend thousands of dollars and you're able to get your hands on one, and your FFL allows it, if they actually do the due diligence and call the SAFE Act hotline, the state troopers, and verify it, then you can register it through the state police. And if you go onto the state police site, they have a section to do this, because there's some people that keep debating me on it, saying it's not allowed and it's just administrative and you're gonna get pulled over. It's like, no, the state police are the ones that enforce this. They say it's allowed. It's not an administrative process. They don't just register random things that show up on their desk because that registration period was closed. You can't just build a new AR and register it as an assault weapon. It has to be older than 50 years old. It's literally in the penal code. So some random police officer, if you do everything legally and you have this and you have the registration, is not gonna look at this and be like, okay, we're gonna put you in jail, because it's literally registered through the state police. The ones that enforce these things, and a local police officer, they're gonna verify it through the state police. They're gonna see it's legal. And if you ever had to go to court, it's in the penal code, and what the courts go by is the penal code. So anyone that wants to debate it, they can go ahead and debate it all they want. And there's thousands of New Yorkers that own these legally. And the reason I think that that was allowed as a provision is because your average day Joe isn't gonna be spending thousands of dollars to be able to gain these. You're not gonna walk into a gun store and buy one. You're most likely going to have to order it from Gun Broker or order it from some different site, have it shipped to your FFL, and then go through this because of how much they cost, how rare they are, and how little guns actually meet that qualification, that this is not going to be your average thing you're going to be doing. But that's the 4th way that you can get an AR-15 legally. 3 of those ways you need a permit to do so. One of the ways is a non-semi-automatic AR. That is the only way that if you're under 21, over 18 years old, that you're gonna be able to get one legally. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't got a permit, go out and get a non-semi-automatic AR-15. Get a straight pull. They have straight pull receivers, and you can get quick with them. You do the mad minute, like the British did, in rapid succession. You can be so quick with it. The Germans thought that these guys had machine gun teams, and you got 10 rounds just like the Lee Enfield did. We're going back to World War II technology here, but you can be just as quick with a more modular, modern firearm. And if you got the permits, go and do what you gotta do. Get armed, Stay safe, protect your family, and God bless America, and thank the Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the comment section. Tell me what you think. Tell me what kind of AR-15 you got. Join the Patreon page. I have a free section where you can show off your AR-15 New York State AR-15 builds. And if you don't live in New York State, show us what kind of cool builds you got. If you got registered SBR, if you got your pistol, AR pistol, show us what you got. Because in New York State, we can't even go through the NFA. So if you wanted to legally own all the cool stuff for suppressors, they don't even let you do that. Because it's not about being registered. It's not about being safe. It's not about training. Because if it was, they would have an avenue. They'd say, if you want to be able to own an NFA item, take an 18-hour course. They don't allow you to. If you want to own a new assault weapon and be able to register it, you have to take a 40-hour course to be able to be safe with it. Nope, they don't offer it because they just don't want you to have it. It's not about training. It's not about safety. It's about control. It's about power. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's shoot this AR. And I'll see you in the next one. I gotta cut this sling down because of how skinny I am. It's got, for it to be at my size, too much hanging off. That's gonna wrap it up. And this gun's overgassed. Definitely overgassed, because you know how most guns come from the factory that aren't, you know, your Gucci builds. But as always, I'll see you in the next one.